Whenever I heard the word frugal, I used to think it's all about clipping coupons, standing in line for the cheapest sales, always looking for bargains at every purchase, or always eating the cheapest meals. And that is not really me. But the more I immersed myself into this minimalism world, the more I realized there are some really great principles of financial minimalism that can help me out on my journey. These are the kind of rules that can help you save your first 10K fast, for example. It can help us on our journey to be more financially flexible and free, and it just brings a lot of benefits to our life. No car payments. We have 0 car payments, and we have done so for a long time now. And I believe this is one of the reasons why we have been able to save a lot of money, like save the down payment to buy our house. It helped us get out of debt, which we used to have in our 20s, and it just frees up that space in your budget that otherwise you wouldn't have. What I have learned with car payments is that they are very likely to never end. The average monthly car payment in the UK in 2025 is between £300 and £500 per month. And this is on types of contracts where you get the car, you pay the monthly payments for, let's say, 4 years, but at the end of it, it's not yours. The car is not yours. You either have to pay a big balance at the end if you still want to keep the car, or you trade it in and you get a new one and your monthly payments start again. So it's just this cycle that is never gonna end. That's what the PCP contract for cars goes like. And those monthly payments don't really take into consideration all of the other things you're gonna have to pay for the car, like maintenance. And obviously, the more expensive the car is, the more expensive all the maintenance things will be. And so it kind of goes hand in hand. If we have, let's say, 30 years of car payments because we keep going from one car to the next, times 12 months, that's 360 months that we might pay. And if it's, let's say, £500 per month, that is about £180,000 by the end of those 30 years. If we had taken that money, or at least some of it, and used that for investing, which is something my husband and I are kind of trying to learn a bit more about, if we had used that to put it in a savings account, that brings a lot of interest back to us, or even just keeping money as fallback or paying off your mortgage, that amount of money can help in our lives so much more than having a new car every few years on our doorstep. This is what we have decided works for us because we have other goals we want to pursue. And so at the moment, we have one car that my husband and I share. Everybody's lifestyle is different. You might need 2 cars, for example, for yourself and your partner if you go to commute to different jobs. Our situation is that we both work from home quite a lot, and even when we do need to go to the office or go to a meeting or do something like that, we can share the car, we can make it work. So we have one car that is completely paid off. We didn't get it in monthly payments, we saved up the money and then we bought the car, and we have 0 monthly car payments, which I think is very freeing. Spreadsheets, baby. In the past few months, I feel like I've gone really nerdy with our budget. We're not very strict on budgeting and, being super frugal or anything like that, but we're also trying to be intentional with our spendings. And especially nowadays with all the subscriptions, all the things you could be adding to your monthly expenses without even realizing, it can be so easy for our monthly expenses to go up and up if we don't have a grasp on it. So I did a spreadsheet. I put in there everything that goes out of our bank accounts, both mine and my husband's, because we kind of share the bills. So it's really helpful to see what percentage is the house that you live in, whether that's rent or mortgage, how much is the car payment if you have one. Another one that's quite big for us at the moment, for example, is a nursery, because my toddler recently started going to nursery. And if you know anything about the UK, nursery or childcare in general here is very expensive. So that's one thing we have added to our monthly expenses, but it's one thing that also allows me a bit more flexibility, a bit more hours in my week so that I can work on my business. But looking at our spreadsheet, I have been able to find a few things here and there, a few subscriptions we weren't really using that much. I think we had some iPad subscriptions for my kids we got months ago, and they're not using that. They actually don't really play that much on the iPad, so that we got rid of those. So the 2 things we can do when we look at our spreadsheet, one is how can we reduce the big costs. So the big biggest cost for a lot of people, and for us, it can be the car payments if you have those. There's also groceries, so paying for the food, that can be a big one too, and childcare as well. So those are kind of the bigger expenses. It's not like you can completely cut those off, obviously, but there are ways that you can maybe reduce here and there and find ways to optimize those. For example, when we met up with our mortgage broker before we bought this house, you know how you meet with them and they kind of give you a budget. So depending on how much deposit you have, your monthly incomes, then they can give you an average of how much you can afford to buy. And so we did that. We saw a few houses that were in that budget, and then we also saw some that were below budget. And this one that we live in right now was actually below. We chose to do that so that our monthly payments are lower, at least for now, because we want to make sure we live, you know, below our means. We want to make sure we feel comfortable. We want to reduce stress. And so that's one decision we have made when it comes to this. And another thing when we're looking at the spreadsheet is to cut down small impulse buys. And those can really add up. I'm not saying never shop ever again, but that can be a really good one to see. Are all of these little things really bringing you value, or are they just impulse buys that are hurting your budget overall? I feel like this is kind of a vulnerable video to film, and there's a reason a lot of people don't talk about money, right? But money is the one thing that impacts all of us. We all need it to survive. We all need it to have happy lives. And I think this is helpful stuff for us to talk about. Now, sometimes, yes, cutting down costs can help us a lot, but there's only so much you can cut down before you feel like you're depriving yourself. And this is where earning more might be needed. So what we can do for this is to learn a profitable skill, because sometimes in a traditional job, there's only so much potential you have to increase your income. Whereas if you start a side hustle, if you start something on the side of your own, that's where you can really start to increase your income and supplement that as needed. The way I've been able to do this is to learn from others, whether that's, you know, watching YouTube videos like the one you're watching right now, buying courses and programs from other people who have done what I want to do, or using an online learning community such as Skillshare. And a big thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring this part of the video. I started using Skillshare in August last year, and yes, I started by paying for it myself. That was before I started working with them, because I saw a lot of value in the service they provide. The best thing I've done to increase my income is to learn a profitable skill and use it to build up my online business here. And my business is around YouTube and also all the other platforms that I have, like Instagram and my blog. For example, at the moment, I'm taking a filmmaking class by Dan Liu, and her filmmaking class really drew my eye because it's all about how to film solo, which that's what I am. I am a solo content creator. My husband helps me sometimes, but a lot of it is just myself and my camera. So learning different tricks about filmmaking, learning how to do social media, because there's so much strategy, there's so much behind it. And the more you learn, the better you get at it. And honestly, I have learned so much in the Skillshare community. It's been really, really helpful. So if you want to learn a skill that can be highly profitable, then this is a great community to start with. The first 500 people to use my link in the description box will get 1 month free trial of Skillshare. Set a goal. Back in 2019, we had moved from Romania to the UK. My son at the time was about to turn 2, and he was about to start nursery as well, childcare. And that was when I decided to go all in on my content creation business. It was really slow growth in the beginning. I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't really have the skills for it yet, but I was so highly motivated to not have to go back to a regular 9 to 5 like I did before he was born. I didn't want to go to a job where I wasn't happy, and that required me to sacrifice a lot of my time that I could be spending with my family. So back then I had what felt like a pipe dream: to replace my 9 to 5 income by working on my own content business from home flexibly. Now, it's a few years later now, and I had achieved that. It's one of the things I'm most proud of. At the moment, I work less than part-time hours, maybe between 12, 15 hours, kind of depends on the week. And my income at the moment is way higher than it used to be in my 9 to 5. So sometimes having a goal that's highly motivating for you can really help you stay on track with your financials. So what's my goal right now? Well, I want to reach 100K subscribers on YouTube and further grow my business around it. And no, it's not about the vanity metrics. I don't really care so much about the numbers of subscribers or followers, but it's because of this. The 2 goals I'm working towards right now along with my family, obviously. One, I've never mentioned this before, but I want to earn enough to give my husband the option to not have to work 5 days a week, so that he can maybe switch that to 3 or 4 days a week instead. He probably wouldn't quit his job because he loves what he does, but having more flexibility and working less, I think it's one thing that's going to benefit us as a family a lot. So that's one of my goals. I want to help my husband work less, and I want to be able to pay off our mortgage early. Am I going to be able to reach all of this? I don't know, but I'm gonna give it my all. And you can stick around with me to find out together. Consume less. The whole point of minimalism for me was to not feel so consumed by things. I didn't realize back then, but buying a lot of items wasn't just the act of me impulsively buying. It often actually consumed a lot of my energy and my time, because I would want to do research behind the products and find the right sizes, and there's so much that goes on behind a purchase. I don't always want to spend my time researching for the cheapest thing or researching for this and that when making a purchase. And one of the ways we can do this is to simply consume less. And by this, I mean consume less products, like buy less in general, and also consume less social media. And this is weird for me to say that because you're watching this on social media and I'm on social media a lot, but I think it's all about being more intentional, not cutting it to zero, but just, being intentional about the accounts that I follow, the things that I watch on YouTube, because I think you and me both probably are very easily influenced by the things we see online. Without even realizing, sometimes I'll scroll on Instagram and all of a sudden this desire to buy something is kind of implanted into our brain, and it's all we can think of. I've learned money can go out really fast, so being intentional with what I consume has been really, really helpful. Declutter. This might feel like a weird one, because what does this have to do with financials? Well, it was over 2 years ago now that I started to massively declutter our home. I stumbled upon this minimalism trend, and I was never aiming to be a minimalist, but I have discovered that it benefited my life a lot. And decluttering did 2 things for me. That's aside from helping me feel more calm and present with my family. That's just a given. But the 2 things decluttering helped me with is, one, it helped me realize how much money I had wasted on unnecessary purchases, on knickknacks, on clothes I never wore, on toys my kids didn't really play with, on home decor I had no place to put around my home, and just so many purchases that I made that I probably shouldn't have. And I'll be honest, that was a really hard realization, because it's hard to realize that you've been wasting money. But I think it was an important one, at least for me, because it allowed me to be a lot more intentional. So nowadays, I very rarely do any sort of impulse shopping. I have a whole list of tools that I use to kind of stop me from impulse buying and using my time and energy in a different way. And the second thing that decluttering helped me with is, as I started to sell some of the items, especially some of the higher value items that I had in my home just lying around, items we weren't using, I got a bit of cash back. Now, I'm not saying when you start decluttering, you're gonna make all of your money back, obviously not. But for some items, you can get some money back. And I think on my Vinted, I've been using Vinted for a few years now, and I think I have over £2,000 that I've made from it at this point. And that's crazy to me. That's all stuff that was in my home that I wasn't using, that sometimes didn't fit me. And so those items all went to somebody else who hopefully is getting use out of them. And I got some money back, and I thought that was pretty cool. It's a marathon, not a race. When I first started running years ago, it was when we were battling with infertility, and I was so angry at my body and I just needed an outlet. So I started running, and I was very, very slow in the beginning. Like, I think sometimes my tracker wouldn't even register it as a run, it would register as a walk. I started with the Couch to 5K app, and I went really slowly. It would alternate between walking and running for a minute, then walking for 2 minutes. When I started running my first 4K or 5K, my pace was about 8 minutes per kilometer, which, if you know in runner terms, that is very, very slow. Now it's a few years later and I'm getting back into it after having my second baby. I realized my pace is a lot better now. It's about 6 minutes per kilometer. But what I realized through this whole process is that I was comparing myself to a lot of other runners. So I would see people run and they would be running so much faster than my 8 minutes per kilometer, and sometimes it would make me feel like a bit of a fail. And then I realized, wait a minute, why am I comparing myself to all of these fast runners when actually I should be comparing myself to who I was 5 years ago? I would have to gasp for air for running for 5 minutes. Because I was comparing myself to this group of runners, I was forgetting how there's this whole other group of people who don't run at all. So even though my pace wasn't very fast, I was still doing something. It was more than zero. It was more than me sitting on the couch all day. And so I started comparing myself to that, just to myself, just to my previous experience. And it was a much more helpful way to approach running. It made me enjoy it more. And I think it's what helped me get faster in the long run. So it can be really easy to compare ourselves to a lot of other people, especially people we see online, but we forget to compare ourselves to where we were in the past. And it's the same with our financials. When it came to running, I realized that just improving a little bit at a time helped me a lot more than trying to do these massive changes to go super fast, really quick, and end up not enjoying the run or just making me feel miserable. So when it comes to our budget, doing these small little changes, it can feel like it's just pointless, but in time, they do make a difference. So we don't always need to be making these huge drastic changes. Sometimes we can simply slowly adjust our budgets, slowly manage our spreadsheets a bit better, change a bit of our daily habits, maybe do some changes in our mindset over big purchases. And in time, all of these little things add up, and they add up as money in our bank accounts. Let me know what financial tips you have. I would love to hear from you because I'm still trying to learn as I'm on this journey myself. I really hope this was helpful, and I will see you in the next one.